And it's politics, an election year, so this is going right into the presidential campaign. And President Biden broke his silence today about these protests that have been going on at campuses. He said lawful dissent must never lead to disorder.
In moments like this, there are always those who rush in to score political points. But this isn't a moment for politics. It's a moment for clarity. So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is.
Former President Trump on the campaign trail in Michigan yesterday, he called the protesters, quote, Hamas, sorry, let me just get that, Hamas sympathizers. There we go. Had to get that.
I say remove the encampments immediately, vanquish the radicals, and take back our campuses for all of the normal students who want a safe place from which to learn. But when you see that video of raging lunatics and Hamas sympathizers at Columbia and other colleges, but it's a shame, and Biden should speak out. He should speak out.
All right, now it's part of the presidential campaign, so we've got Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl on this. Jonathan, when hearing President Biden say protests should never lead to disorder, I'm old enough to remember the '68 protests in Chicago where I grew up, and the mayor at the time, Mayor Daley, saying the police are not there to create disorder, they're there to preserve disorder. Is what he said. You like that? Yeah. Anyway, what's your read on this? Trump speaks out, Biden comes back today. What do you think?
Well, look, I don't think that Biden spoke out because Trump taunted him and challenged him to do so. I think that it was time for him to speak out. We were, 10 days into this? We hadn't heard it all from Joe Biden on this. I think part of, by the way, the underlying issue is that the White House has really put the president in something of a cocoon. He doesn't face questions from the press on anything close to a regular basis. He doesn't do interviews except very infrequently and only with very friendly audiences. So, you can have a situation where you have a story like this that has played out for over a week and we don't have a word from the president himself. So I think it was, essentially time for him to get out there. Although, Terry, this is not really necessarily a presidential issue. The president also doesn't want to get mired into the decision-making of how to handle protesters on individual campuses, many of them private colleges and universities around the country.
Because some of those presidents have messed it up.
Yes,
clearly.
yes.
Ended up
every time
chaos.
they've gone in to say something, the college presidents, in some cases, they've made it worse.
Right, and both of these candidates, Trump and Biden, would also remember, much better than I, the 1968 and student uprisings around that time. And it did impact the presidential election there. And I just wonder, Trump is taking the law and order stance, right? Which was Richard Nixon's ticket to the White House that time. Yeah,
look, we remember 1968. We remember some of the tragedies of that year, the assassinations, Kennedy and King. We remember the campus-wide, nationwide anti-war protests as this kind of, this height of the anti-war movement. But it's also the year that Richard Nixon won overwhelmingly when he ran for president on that law and order platform. So I think there is a real danger here for Democrats. Much of the focus has been he's alienated younger voters. Look at these protesters. He's never going to get their support. But the larger issue in terms of electoral politics here is Trump is running once again on that kind of law and order platform, and he's pointing to this as evidence of the chaos in Joe Biden's America.
And he's also running once again on the election results of 2020, but also of 2024. Yesterday in Michigan, he was talking about, would he accept the results if he lost in 2024, and he wouldn't commit.
Well, actually, he's been crystal clear on this. He will absolutely accept the results if he wins. And this is something that he has said essentially over and over again, really going back to 2016.
That's not reassuring.
No, it's not reassuring at all. And then when you get to the next question, which is, will there be violence? Will can you assure us that your supporters this won't cause violence? And he says, no, there won't be violence because we're going to win. That is basically what he's saying. That's what he said in this interview with the Milwaukee newspaper. It's essentially what he said in the interview with Time magazine. And it's a message that I've heard. I talked to Steve Bannon even before Trump announced his campaign about what it was going to look like. And I leaned into him. I said, Steve, aren't you worried about the prospects for violence? And he said, no, because we are going to win. But there's absolutely nothing, there's no assurance there won't be, regardless of the results. And more importantly, there's nothing from Trump or any of his people saying, no, there must not be violence.
Yeah.
We must accept whatever the results are.
He's an instinctual man, a clever man. He knows exactly what he's not saying is a message to his supporters. We won't lose.
100%. 100%.
John Karl, thanks very much.
Thank you, Terry.